You're doing it right now. You've done it roughly 20,000 times today. You'll do it another 20,000 times tomorrow. And in all those thousands of repetitions, it has never once occurred to you that you might be doing it completely wrong. Breathing. The one thing your body was supposedly built for from the very beginning. But here's what the science actually shows. Most people in the modern world breathe in a way that is slowly degrading their health, reshaping their faces, disrupting their sleep, and quietly pushing their nervous system into a state of low-grade panic, all without a single moment of awareness. You're not breathing the way your ancestors did. And the difference matters far more than anyone ever told you. The first thing to understand is the root. Right now, there's a good chance you're breathing through your mouth. It feels natural. It feels like there's more air. It feels effortless. But the mouth was never designed to be your primary airway. Not even close. Your nose is a remarkably complex piece of engineering that took millions of years to build. It filters incoming air. It humidifies it. It warms it to exactly the right temperature before it reaches your lungs. It even has tiny hair-like structures called cilia that trap bacteria and particles and sweep them away before they can cause damage. But none of that is the most important thing it does. The most important thing is what your mouth cannot do at all. Your nasal passages produce nitric oxide. James Nestor, a science journalist who spent years investigating the mechanics of breath and documented his research in exhaustive detail, describes nasal breathing as the difference between receiving air and receiving medicine. Nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator. It opens blood vessels. It improves the transfer of oxygen into your cells. It has antifungal and antiviral properties that provide a first line of immune defense. When you breathe through your mouth, you skip every single one of those systems. You bypass an entire biological pharmacy that your body built specifically for this purpose, and evolution did build it intentionally. For most of human history, mouth breathing was what happened in emergencies. You sprinted from a predator. You fought. Your mouth dropped open because your body needed maximum air volume in minimum time. Then the threat passed. Your heart rate slowed. Your nose took over again. The system reset. That was always the design. The nose for living. The mouth for surviving. So when did everything go wrong? The answer, according to anthropologist Daniel Lieberman of Harvard University, begins with the human face itself. Your skull has changed. Over the last few hundred years, an evolutionary blink, the human jaw has become significantly smaller and narrower than it was in your prehistoric ancestors. Lieberman documents this with startling precision across thousands of skulls. Pre-agricultural human skulls show wide, robust jaws, straight teeth, and open nasal passages with plenty of room for air to move through. Modern human skulls show crowded and crooked teeth, narrow palates, and airways that are increasingly compressed from every direction. This shift didn't happen because of genetics. It happened because of food. When your ancestors chewed, they worked raw meat, fibrous roots, tough, coarse grain that had to be ground down with enormous repetitive force. That mechanical stress did something critical. It stimulated bone growth throughout the jaw and midface. The skull literally responded to use. It expanded and strengthened under load, the same way a muscle does. But once you move to soft processed food, and this shift accelerated sharply with agriculture and exploded during industrialization, that stimulation stopped. Your jaw stopped developing to its full potential. Your palate narrowed, the midface flattened, and the airway compressed right along with it. The result is a face that looks completely normal to you, because every face around you looks the same. But compared to the skulls in Lieberman's research, the modern human face is structurally compromised. The passages that air was meant to flow through freely are narrower. The space for the tongue is reduced. The whole architecture is tighter. And so, night after night, without realizing it, millions of people sleep with their mouths falling open, their tongues dropping back, their airways partially collapsed, and they call it normal sleep. You've almost certainly heard of sleep apnea. You probably think of it as something that happens to other people, older people, heavier people. But sleep researcher Christian Guilleminault at Stanford University spent decades studying a condition he identified called Upper Airway Resistance Syndrome, a milder and far more widespread cousin of full obstructive sleep apnea. His findings were extraordinary. Enormous numbers of people, including children, experience repeated microarousals throughout the night because their airways are too narrow and too soft to stay fully open. They never stop breathing completely, so no medical alarm sounds. But the brain detects the increased effort every few minutes and pulls the person back toward lighter sleep over and over again, sometimes dozens of times per hour, to prevent suffocation. You wake up tired. You reach for coffee. You push through the afternoon on stimulants and willpower. And you tell yourself you're just not a morning person. But you never actually got the deep sleep your brain required. And it happens again the next night, and the night after that. But disturbed sleep is only part of what's happening. The way you breathe changes the chemistry of your blood in real time. Every single breath you take removes carbon dioxide from your bloodstream. This sounds straightforward. Carbon dioxide is a waste product. Of course, you want to get rid of it. But this is one of the most widespread misunderstandings in the whole of popular health culture. Carbon dioxide is not simply a waste product to be expelled as fast as possible. It is a biological signal. It tells your blood vessels when to dilate. It tells your red blood cells when to release oxygen into surrounding tissue. It governs the pH of your blood with extraordinary precision. Without the right levels of carbon dioxide, oxygen gets locked inside those red blood cells and simply cannot reach the organs and muscles that need it. When you breathe too fast, and mouth breathers almost always do, because the mouth allows for much higher airflow volumes than the nose, you overclear carbon dioxide. The chemistry of your blood shifts. Blood vessels constrict. Oxygen delivery drops even as you feel like you're getting more air. And your brain, detecting the rapid fall in CO2, interprets it as a signal that something is wrong. So it fires the sympathetic nervous system. This is the stress response, the exact same biological system designed to mobilize you against an immediate physical threat. It raises your heart rate, it tenses your muscles, it floods your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. It sharpens your attention toward threats and dulls your access to calm, creative, expansive thinking. Now here's what makes this so quietly devastating. If you breathe this way all day, every day, the stress response never fully resolves. Your nervous system never returns all the way to baseline. It stays slightly activated, slightly braced. You feel it as a vague anxiety you can't quite name, as tension that lives permanently in your shoulders and jaw, as a baseline irritability that flares faster than it should, as a persistent sense that something is wrong, even when everything is objectively fine. You've been living just above your window of calm for so long that you've forgotten what calm actually feels like. The physiologist Konstantin Buteyko understood this dynamic in the 1950s. Working with patients in the Soviet Union, Buteyko made a consistent observation across hundreds of cases. People suffering from asthma, chronic anxiety, high blood pressure, and persistent fatigue shared one measurable characteristic. They breathed too much. Not too little, too much, too fast, too shallowly, too frequently through their mouths. He developed a program of exercises specifically designed to reduce breathing volume and retrain the body's tolerance for carbon dioxide. His methods remained controversial for decades. The medical establishment was skeptical of anything so simple. But his core insight is now supported by a growing body of clinical evidence showing that breathing retraining genuinely reduces asthma frequency and severity, lowers resting heart rate, and shifts patients out of chronic sympathetic nervous system activation. The irony is almost painfully elegant. The answer was never to breathe more. The answer was to breathe less, slower, more gently, and through the right door. So what does correct breathing actually look like? It is quieter than you expect. The breath arrives through the nose without effort or sound. It travels down into the lower belly, not the upper chest. The chest barely moves. The belly expands on the inhale and softly contracts on the exhale. The pace is somewhere around 5 to 6 full breath cycles per minute, rather than the 15 to 20 breaths per minute that most modern adults average. Nestor calls this the perfect breath. An inhale of 5.5 seconds, followed by an exhale of 5.5 seconds. Research teams studying this rhythm have found that breathing at this rate synchronizes the cardiovascular system in a remarkable way, aligning heart rate variability with the breath cycle in a pattern associated with maximum oxygen delivery, minimum nervous system stress, and a measurable increase in subjective calm. 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. Try it right now. Just once. And notice how slow it feels. Notice how strange and almost uncomfortable it is to let the exhale extend that long before the next inhale arrives. That strangeness is not discomfort. That strangeness is information. It tells you exactly how far your automatic breathing has drifted from its intended rhythm. There is also a newer area of research that takes this even further. Studies in myofunctional therapy, targeted exercises for the tongue, jaw, and airway muscles, show that the structure of the face itself can still change in adults. Not dramatically and not quickly, but the bones and soft tissue do respond to new mechanical pressures over time. Children who are identified early as chronic mouth breathers and given targeted intervention show significant improvements not just in breathing quality but in sleep, behavioral regulation, academic performance, and physical facial development. The jaw expands, the palate widens, the airway opens. The skull, even in adults, is not completely finished responding to the forces placed on it. You are not permanently trapped in the face you have, but you are responsible for paying attention to what you do with the 20,000 breaths inside it. You don't need equipment. You don't need a subscription or a supplement or a prescription. Right now, in this moment, you can close your mouth. You can breathe in through your nose. You can let your belly expand before your chest rises. You can exhale slowly and completely, all the way to empty, and then wait one comfortable moment before the next breath arrives on its own. That is what your ancestors did. Every moment of every day, without ever having to think about it. Their skulls prove it. Their wider jaws and open airways and robust faces are there in the archaeological record, waiting to be compared with yours. The circumstance of their lives, hard food, physical demand, open air, made correct breathing inevitable. The circumstance of your life makes it invisible and optional. And that invisibility is exactly the problem. Tonight, when you lie down and your body takes over and breathes for you the way it always has, 20,000 times, automatic, unexamined. The same pattern you've never once questioned. Something will be different. You'll know what the science shows. You'll know what the skulls say. You'll know what the CO2 chemistry does to your blood and what the sympathetic cascade costs your nervous system across years and decades of repetition. You're doing it right now. You've done it 20,000 times today. And now, for the first time in your entire life, you finally know how.